the condition of the pandemic COVID-19. Why is food nutrition security important? Because it often rooted in poverty. Access to quality nutrition food is fundamental to human existence. Secure access to food can produce wide-ranging positive impact. The negative effect of food insufficiency include impaired physical and cognitive abilities of children. Generally, food insufficiency and hunger amount to poor health status, making children more to be sick, and also resulting in children being frequently hospitality. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this seminar is very good for us, especially for UPN Veteran Jakarta. Finally, big thanks for all speakers, especially for SNV Indonesia, Ms. Ismail RIC Stelpers. Hopefully, we will produce something useful and can also help to contribute to overcome about stunting problem in Indonesia, especially. Thank you. Good luck for this seminar. See you in the next webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Dr. Erna Hernawati, AKCPM ACA, for the opening speech. Now we are going to take a picture together. So please stand by and pose like Bella Negara pose like this. I will count 1 to 10, and please hold the pose like this till I end to count. I start to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like this, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Thank you. Okay. It is now my deep pleasure to introduce the moderator of this seminar session, His Excellencies Mr. Muhammad Nur Hasan Shah SGZ MKes, that will lead the seminars today. And now let me introduce Mr. Muhammad Nur Hasan. Sorry, there is a mistake. Okay, technical problem. Okay, Mr. Muhammad Nur Hasan Shah is a lecturer in UPN Veteran Jakarta from 2019 till now, and he was a lecturer in Stikes Mitra Keluarga from 2015 till 2019. The publication of Mr. Muhammad Nur Hasan Shah is irregular weight monitoring associated with overweight, obesity, and adolescence advocacy. And also there are hubungan indeks gizi seimbang dengan status gizi pada remaja putri di SMK Kota Bekasi. And also there are eating disorder risk and anemia among girls nutrition student in Mitra Keluarga School of Health Science. And also project and collaboration that have done by Mr. Muhammad Nur Hasan is principal investigator food consumption and anemia among adolescents girl in Bekasi, founder of makanbaik.com, principal investigator riset intervensi kesehatan berbasis budaya lokal, funded by Ministry of Health Indonesia 2016, assistant best practice and ICE Project Indonesia, ADB, funded by Ministry of Health Indonesia 2014, and so on. And the achievement of Mr. Muhammad Nur Hasan, 2019 International Union Nutritional Science or IUNS Early Career Travel Bursary for fans, and so on. There's a lot of experiences of Mr. Muhammad Nur Hasan Shah. So let's go to the seminars, and I will give the seminars to Mr. Muhammad Nur Hasan. And for Muhammad Nur Hasan, the time is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vida, for the nice introduction. Well, ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Our speaker session is about to begin. Please have a comfortable position in front of your laptop, computer, or your smartphone. And thank you very much for preparing yourself to join our webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to you all and special greetings to Nick. Good evening, Nick. Her Excellency Rektor PN Veteran Jakarta, Dr. Erna Ernawati, AK CPM ACA, respectable the SNV Country Director Indonesia, Isman RIC Stalpers, and of course the honorable speakers and as well as the participants of webinar today. So ladies and gentlemen, I am Muhammad Nur Hasansyah, the moderator of the webinars today. I am very pleased to see you here and welcome all of you to this our fourth international webinar hosted by Nutrition Study Program, Faculty of Health Sciences, UPN Veteran Jakarta, Indonesia, in collaboration with SNV Netherlands Development Organization, International Food Policy Research Institute, and Department of Nutrition, Faculty of Public Health, Hasanuddin University. This webinar will discuss about food and nutrition security, the present and the future. So ladies and gentlemen, before I introduce the speakers today, I would like to convey a poem or pantun in bahasa. Pagi-pagi makan nasi kuning. Jangan lupa sambal terinya. Hari ini banyak informasi penting. Tetap setia, simak materinya. We also remind you we have interpreter atau penerjemah. You can choose English for English language or for bahasa you can choose Japanese. We also provide a sign interpreter, juru bahasa isyarat. MC already welcoming all speakers, but I will mention it again. So we have 5 speakers today. First is Nicholas Minot, PhD. He is Senior Research Fellow and Deputy Director, Market, Trade, and Institution Division in International Food Policy Research Institute. He will present about food and nutrition security, result of a study in Eastern Indonesia. Second speaker is Meita Tengkeng, SKM, MHID. She is a Technical Officer, Food and Nutrition Security at SNV Netherlands Development Organization. And she also advisor Millennial Voice Indonesia. She will present about inclusive advocacy for food and nutrition security for all. The third speaker is Yuni Setianingsi, SKPM, MSc. She is Technical Officer Advocacy, Food and Nutrition Security at SNV Netherlands Development Organization, and also BOD Chair at Millennial Voice Indonesia. She will present about Millennials Movement, the frontrunners of innovation for food and nutrition security. The fourth speaker is Nanang Nasrullah, STP, MSE. He is lecturer on Nutrition Study Program, Faculty of Health Science, UPN Veteran Jakarta, and he will present about enhancing food and nutrition security through science and innovation. And the fifth is Rahayu Indriasari, SKM, MPHCN, PhD. She is a lecturer of Department of Nutrition, Faculty of Public Health, Hasanuddin University, and she will present about school-based food and nutrition program, lesson learned from the field. Before the presentation begins, let's know the regulation, how the presentation will be going on. Firstly, I would like to give the time to the speakers to present the presentation for about 15 minutes and the Q&A session after all speakers speak. Now allow me to read a short biography for the speaker. The first speaker, Nicholas Minot, PhD. He graduated from Michigan State University for master and PhD degree. He has a lot of experience, such as right now he is Senior Research Fellow and Deputy Director of MTID IFRI, and has conducted many international projects in food and nutrition. He also has a plenty publication. The newest one is about title, Does Blue Revolution Help the Poor? Evidence from Bangladesh. This published at Agriculture Economics 2019. Well, please welcome Nicholas Minot to deliver his presentation. The time is yours, sir.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to speak to such a distinguished and large audience. I'm going to talk to you today about the results of the study that we carried out as part of the Voices for Change partnership managed by SNV, the Netherlands Development Organization. Let me put up my slides here. Okay, good. In this presentation, I'm going to start with a brief background on the food and nutrition security issues globally and in Indonesia. Then I'll present some results from the survey of 2,000 households in Eastern Indonesia that we carried out as part of this program. And I'll finish by drawing some implications for food policy and programs. So as you know, there's increasing interest in reducing stunting as a key development objectives. Stunting in the first few years of life is associated with a wide range of negative outcomes, including poor mental development, late enrollment in school, early dropouts, reduced earning as an adult, and even poor adult health. Studies show that investment in early childhood nutrition has a high rate of return in terms of adult income. As a result of these studies, Indonesia has adopted targets to reduce child stunting and programs to achieve these targets. This graph shows the international patterns in child stunting. The proportion of children under 5 that are stunted is on the vertical axis, while GDP per capita is on the horizontal axis. Each circle represents a country, and the size of the circle represents the population of that country. As you can see from the pattern, higher income is strongly associated with lower rates of stunting. This is partly because higher income allows households to afford a more diverse and healthy diet. Up to a point. There's also the problem of obesity. And higher income also allows the government to provide better sanitation and better healthcare. But there's a lot of variation around the trend. Two countries with the same GDP per capita can have quite different stunting rates depending on how much they allocate to safety net programs, to nutrition programs, to sanitation, and to healthcare. So even within a given level of income, there's a lot that can be done to reduce stunting with good programs and good policies. This next graph shows stunting in Indonesia across provinces and over time. The arrows indicate the stunting rate in NTT and NTB provinces that are among the highest in Indonesia, according to the 2013 Riskesdas survey. This is a basic health survey. Now, as was mentioned earlier, this is from the 2013 survey. Since then, the 2018 survey has shown some significant improvement in these provinces, meaning that they're no longer at the bottom, but of course there remains a lot of work to do to further lower stunting rates in Eastern Indonesia. So it is in this context that the Voices for Change partnership carried out a survey on food and nutrition security in Eastern Indonesia. The sample was 2,000 households that were randomly selected from 5 districts in NTT and NTB provinces. The data were collected by SNV staff and partner civil society organizations with technical support and analysis by IFPRI. Okay, jumping right into the results. One measure of food security is to ask respondents whether their household experienced any periods of food shortage over the past 12 months, meaning that they didn't have food stocks nor money to purchase food. Overall, 42% of our sample said that they had experienced a period of food shortage over the past 12 months. We divided the sample into 5 groups based on housing quality and ownership of assets like television, motorbikes, and cars. And we constructed an asset index to measure the sort of the wealth of each of our households. As you can see from this graph, there was a strong relationship between the wealth index and food security. Just 14% of the richest households, this would be the richest 20%, experienced food insecurity over the past year, but 3/4 of the poorest households had experienced food insecurity. How did households adapt to periods of food insecurity? The most common response, as you can see from this graph, was that households borrowed money to buy food, and also they ate cheaper and less balanced meals. What does it mean by cheaper and less balanced? What we mean is that they consumed more rice, maize, and root crops and less of everything else. Other methods of adapting to food insecurity include borrowing or asking for food and reducing the size of meals. Another indicator of food security is the diet diversity. This table shows the percentage of households consuming each type of food over the past 7 days for each wealth category. The red numbers are the lowest value in each row, and the green numbers are the highest value in each row. As you can see from the top row, almost everyone in our sample consumes rice, regardless of income category. About half of the households consume maize and about half consume root crops. The yellow highlighted rows indicate foods that are widely consumed by high-income households, but not often consumed by poor households. In other words, a large difference in the percentage for the wealthy households and a lower percentage for the poor households. For example, few poor households consume orange and red vegetables, meat, eggs, and dairy products, but a majority of the high-income households do. These might be considered luxury foods in that they are expensive as a source of calories, but they're also foods that are dense in protein and/or micronutrients. Their absence in the diet of poor people is a major cause of poor nutrition. The last row in the table shows the average number of food categories consumed by households during the week. The average poor household consumes just 3 of these categories, perhaps rice, leafy vegetables, and fish. In contrast, the average household in the richest category, the right-hand column, consumes 7.3 of these foods. They have a more diverse and nutritious diet. Some of these wealthy households, of course, may consume too much, resulting in obesity and other health issues. But in general, greater diet diversity means greater nutrition. Okay, so the survey also asked about the experiences of households with 3 Indonesian safety net programs. The Rastra program, formerly called Raskin, is designed to provide 15 kilos of rice per month to poor households. It is one of the largest food assistance programs in the world. The first column shows that overall 70% of our sample in NTT and NTB was receiving rice from the program. There's a lot of variation across districts, perhaps due to differences in income. Across wealth categories, the share of households getting Rastra rice declines from 80% among the poorest category to 34% among the richest category. The good news is that the proportion declines with income, meaning that there is some level of targeting going on as it's designed. The bad news, I guess you could say, is that about 1/3 of the wealthiest households are also receiving Rastra rice, even though they presumably shouldn't be eligible. Also looking at the second column, the average quantity received was just 10.6 kilos per month, with a lot of variation across districts. So it seems that there's a fair amount of variation in the implementation of the Rastra program. This slide shows the level of satisfaction with the Rastra program among beneficiaries. The pie chart on the left uses green to indicate positive responses, yellow for neutral, and orange for the negative responses. Overall, 2/3 were very satisfied or satisfied. Among those that were not very satisfied, we asked why not, and the results on the right-hand side show that about 90% of these people complained about the quality of the rice. More than half said it wasn't available every month, and that the quantity was less than 15 kilograms per month. Okay, the second safety net program that we looked at was the PKH program. This is a conditional cash transfer program with some assistance in kind as well. Only 14% of the households in our sample were beneficiaries of this program. However, it is very well targeted at poor households, and very few of the wealthy households, of the wealthiest households, are receiving benefits. So only 2% of the top wealth category were receiving PKH benefits. The average amount received was about 250,000 rupees, with very little, little variation across the different categories. So it's fairly consistent in the amounts provided to each beneficiary. Okay, this next slide shows how beneficiaries rate the PKH. In general, they were very satisfied. 3/4 of the beneficiaries said that they were very satisfied, compared to just 37% for Rastra. Only 4% of the beneficiaries were dissatisfied with the PKH program. Among the 25% who were not very satisfied, the most common complaint, so this is already a relatively small group because it's only the 25% who are not very satisfied, but among them, the most common complaint was that it is not made available every month, and that sometimes the full amount is not given. You can also see that respondents tended to prefer cash transfers to in-kind transfers, because there are more people saying I would prefer cash rather than a transfer than the number of people saying I would prefer a transfer rather than cash. Okay, the third program that we looked at is the Jamkesmas health insurance program. And this is designed to help poor households gain access to health insurance and health services. Almost 2/3 of the sample households were participating in this program. However, the lower part of the table shows that there's very little relationship between the proportion of households participating and the wealth category. In other words, almost the same proportion of wealthy households participate as poor households. This indicates that Jamkesmas is, in practice, not very targeted towards poor households. Trying to switch slides here. Okay, this slide shows that the level of satisfaction with the Jamkesmas program is high. 3/4 of the beneficiaries say they are very satisfied. Among those who were not very satisfied, the main complaint was that it does not cover all health services. Others said that the health services were not good, that it's too complicated, or that it is too expensive. Okay. Now, this survey was meant to be fairly quick and light, and so we did not measure infants and children. However, we did collect child weight and age data, which are recorded at health clinics and stored on health cards at home. And so we were able to collect information on the measured weight and age of children, and analyze these to look at the proportion of underweight children. We found that 34% of the children were underweight, just 3% were overweight. This table shows the results of a statistical analysis of the factors that are associated with underweight children. There was no significant difference between boys and girls in this analysis, but older children were more likely to be underweight than younger. Older meaning 3 and 4 rather than in the first 2 years of life. That's a fairly standard pattern that you see in a lot of nutrition studies. The children in large households were more likely to be underweight, and children in poor households were more likely to be underweight. Lack of water treatment was also associated with underweight children. Okay, so what can we conclude from these results? First, income growth is strongly associated with food security. Higher income is associated with fewer food shortages, with a higher diet diversity, and a lower prevalence of underweight children. Therefore, it is important to promote programs to help poor households raise their income. This may be through agriculture, through enterprise development, or through wage employment. Second, the Rastra program has some room for improvement in its ability to achieve its target of 15 kilograms per month. Third, the targeting of the Rastra program it's okay, but it's not great, shall we say. More poor people are getting assistance than wealthy people, but there are still a fair number of wealthy people that are getting assistance. One possibility would be to borrow some of the targeting methods used in the PKH program, which seems to be better targeted towards poor households. Fourth, since the main complaint about the Rastra program was the low quality of rice, it would be good to make sure that the rice distributed in this program is healthy and safe. Fifth, the PKH program is both well-targeted and very popular among beneficiaries, more so than the Rastra program. However, only a small percentage of people are benefiting from it. The government might consider shifting resources from the Rastra program to PKH to expand the latter and allow a larger proportion of households to benefit. Sixth, the Jamkesmas program is not really targeted at poor households as it's currently implemented. If it's not financially feasible to make it universal, then it should be better targeted so that no poor households are excluded from the program. Seventh, the government may want to consider measuring the length and height of children at health clinics in addition to weight. This would allow monitoring of child stunting. So that would allow us to track patterns and trends in stunting at the local level using a very large database. Finally, I should mention that although this presentation has focused on income and safety net programs, reducing child stunting also requires good prenatal care, early childhood growth monitoring, clean water, good sanitation, and accessible healthcare. The study that we carried out has a lot of results which I have not presented here today. You're welcome to look up the full report if you're interested. And of course, there are many topics that we were not able to cover in this study. But the area of research in child nutrition is an important topic, and we encourage further work in this area. So thank you very much, terima kasih, and I look forward to hearing your questions and addressing them. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick, for giving such informative and interesting presentation. May I highlight some point from your presentation? You have mentioned that in conclusion, higher income associated with fewer food shortage, higher diet diversity, and lower underweight. So I think it is very important to promote programs that help poor household raise income, whether through agriculture, business, or wage employment like PKH atau PKH and Jamkesmas. Again, thank you very much, Nick. We still have 4 speakers until the Q&A, so we hope you can stay here and join our webinar until the Q&A session.
Yes,
and
certainly.
Next, I remind you again, we have interpreter atau penerjemah. You can choose English for English language, and for bahasa, you can choose the Japanese. The button is below left side of the reaction button in your Zoom application. Next, the second speaker, we have Mei Tatengkeng SKM MHID. I will read the CV first. Her educational background are Master of Health and International Development from Flinders University, South Australia, and her Bachelor of Public Health from University of Indonesia, and Diploma of Nursing from Health Polytechnics of NTT. Before joining the SNV in August 2018, May has worked with several international NGOs and also UN's bodies such as Action Against Hunger, UN WFP, UN FAO, Medicines Sans Frontieres, and World Vision. And now she is Technical Program Officer of Food and Nutrition Security (FNS) in SNP Netherlands Development Organization, and in the Voice for Change Partnership Program atau V4CP. You could follow her media social on Instagram at Mei Tatengkeng later. So next, please welcome Her Excellency Mei Tatengkeng SKMM ID to deliver her presentation. The time is yours, Bu Mei.
Thank you, Masanjia. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity given for us from SNV Indonesia to join this a very interesting seminar. I'm Mei Tatengkeng. Greetings for you all from Kupang NTT. I live in Kupang NTT right now. Today, I will present about inclusive advocacy for food and nutrition security for all. So the outline of my presentation is first, we will talk about food and nutrition security. Next. And then inclusive advocacy for food and nutrition security for all. And I will share a little bit about the program that I'm working right now. It's a Voice for Change Partnership Program. Yeah, if you talk about food and nutrition security, definition of food and nutrition security, there was an evolution on the definition. So before 2013, the definition was more focused on about food availability, food access, and really focused on how to make sure that the food is there. And after that, there was a discussion, and then the The definition is revised by adding about the non-food factors that really contributed to the nutritional status. So they add about sanitation, health system, and care practices. So now the definition for food and nutrition security that being used is food and nutrition security exists when all people at all the time have access physical, social, and economic to food, which is the food is supposed to be safe and enough or sufficient from quantity and quality to meet the dietary need and food preference. Food preference is influenced by religion or culture or the health condition of the person. And is supposed to supported by an environment that have adequate sanitation, health service and care, so that can allow for a healthy and active life. So from this definition, we can see that about food and nutrition security is not only focusing on food related factors, but also taking into account the non-food factors that play significant roles in determining the nutritional status of the population. Next. For food and nutrition security, it has like the dimension. So that covered availability, access, and utilization. The availability here, we're talking about food production at domestic level. We discuss about food stock, export, import, and many activities that will determine the availability of food in one particular location. About access, we're talking about distribution, food prices, the purchasing power of the population to have access to the food from economic aspect. We're talking about transportation and access to market, access to information about food. We're talking about infrastructure, and also we're talking about food distribution, the logistic and management to make sure that the food can be accessed physically, economically, and also socially by the population. Here also we're talking about how to ensure that all the food can be accessed by all elements in the population, all groups in the population. The third dimension is about food utilization. So in here, more talking about how the food is utilized and the benefit of utilize the food itself for the population. So here, it's a cover food diversification, food safety and quality, nutritional status improvement. Is it food safe to be consumed by the community? Here also we're talking about the clean water and sanitation, because these two aspects is very important to support the community to achieve proper nutrition status. Also about care practices and feeding practices in the community, and the important part also about health system. These three dimensions, it's supposed to be stable. So the factors that affect the stability of this dimension is like weather, political situation, economics progress. So the state of food and nutrition security can be achieved if all these three dimensions are achieved and stable throughout the period of the time. Next. So here I presented the data about nutritional status in Indonesia. I used the data from Global Nutrition Report 2018 and 2020. So on the left side, we can see that from 2018 and 2020, Indonesia still remain as one of the countries that facing double burden of malnutrition. So we have the case of undernutrition, while the case of overnutrition also steadily increased and exacerbating the burden that we already have from undernutrition. From Risk 2013 and 2018, also we can see that regarding the nutritional status of children under 5 in Indonesia, we still have high burden. We still have very serious public health in terms of nutritional status. Like for stunting, we still have 37.2 in 2013, and now we have like 32%. So this is still below the standard that determined by WHO. So it's still below, still above 20%. Also for wasting or the thin and very thin children, we still have high prevalence. We still have above 10% of the 10% prevalence. So, so like I said previously, Indonesia, we are facing double burden of malnutrition. And the problem that we are facing right now, we have double burden of malnutrition. We have very high prevalence of stunting and wasting. And particularly for adolescents, Indonesia, we are facing triple burden of malnutrition, where stunting, wasting, and obesity, and overweight and anemia, they are coexist now. Next. For food security status, here I use the information from Food Security and Vulnerability Atlas, or FSVA. This is the atlas that developed by National Food Security Board. So if we compare the data from 2015 atlas and 2018, so it's, we can see that there are more than 170 districts or cities, they have improved their food security status within 4 years. And for this map, the colors are indicating the status of food security in the particular area. They have 6 priorities in the map, in the atlas. And for the red color, for priorities 1 to 3, it shows the vulnerability. The darker the color, the higher the vulnerability in that area. While for the priorities 4 to 6, it shows the status of food security. So the green one, so the darker the color, it shows that the higher the security status in that location. So next please. So aligned with my title of presentation, it's about advocacy for nutrition security for all. So I'm sure that it's not only SNP that doing this advocacy program to support the government to reach the situation of food and nutrition security for all. And for the advocacy itself, because it is a dynamic process, but we need to, of course, we have a specific impact that we want to reach, or we want to contribute to the country to reach the impact. Regarding the advocacy for food nutrition security for all, in here, we use the several terms here. First is about the inclusive advocacy here means we use the theme of nothing about us without us. This is, we need to ensure that when we are advocating for such issue, for example, for nutrition, for food and nutrition security, we have to ensure that all people that are in the whole dimension of food and nutrition security are targeted, engaged or involved, and be heard, and also benefited from this advocacy process and results. If you want to influence the food and nutrition security policy that's sensitive, for instance, sensitive to gender issue, then we need to talk to women and men on such issue, and then we need to listen to them what they want to be put or to be involved or to be benefited from these food and nutrition security policies, and how they want to take part in the process, either the process on develop the policy itself, or the process to implement the policy and also to evaluate the policy. It also applies for the if we're working with people with disabilities, we need to involve them. We need to inform that we will do this such advocacy for such issue. We need to inform them. We need to involve them and make sure that support them to be heard and then to be benefited from the advocacy process and result that we are doing. And in the spirit of no one left behind, this is the example I would like to take here is that if we're talking about advocacy for stunting prevention and management, we need to pay attention for all the people or individuals that are in the cycles of stunting. Yes, it is important for us to pay attention for the people who are in the cycle of 1,000 days of life, from the pregnant woman, lactating woman, and children under 2. But it's also very important for us to involve and pay attention to the adolescent and also uh, the school age children. And adolescent here, we're not only talking about adolescents who are in schools, but we also need to pay attention and work with those adolescents who are dropped out from the schools. Here again, we want to make sure that everybody are in the process of advocacy for example, for stunting. So when we involve adolescent in the process of advocacy, so we have to say who are these adolescents, school or not school, are they a disability or not disability. Still, we have to talk with them, involve them in the advocacy process, listen to them, and support them so they can voice out their their ideas and what they want during this whole process of advocacy for stunting, for example. Because if we're talking about stunting and this adolescent, a particular group of adolescents, whether they are disabled or no, they are going to school or no, this is very important because they are becoming the parents in the future. And also their current nutritional status are the manifestation of their childhood malnutrition status. They are their childhood nutrition status. So if they are malnourished, then we can and they don't have proper care from health aspect, so we can predict that in the future the quality of the generation that they will have is not really far from what their condition now. So it is important to involve youth, adolescent, a part of the people who are in the 1,000 days period of life. Next, for the advocacy, it is essential. Sorry, please go back to the previous slides. Yeah, so we need to use evidence in our advocacy process. The power of evidence is really, really useful and essential to help us to convince the government and the other related stakeholders about the topic that we are advocating. And for the advocacy itself, the one aspect is very important is about multi-stakeholder approach and collaborative works. We can't do this advocacy by ourselves, but the more we engage with many stakeholders with the same interest, it is increase our chance to voice out the topic that we would like to advocate, and we'll reach more people than if we do it by ourselves. Yes, multi-stakeholder approach is sometimes it is challenging, but the challenge itself is not as many as the benefit that we will have if we do multi-stakeholder approach or collaborative works in advocacy for food and nutrition security. And when we do the advocacy for food and nutrition security for all, we need to remember again about food and nutrition security is a multidimensional thing, and we can't only talk about food. If the food is there, if the food is available, and that's enough. No, we need to in our advocacy topic, in our advocacy messages, we need to ensure that we cover all the dimensional of the food and nutrition security from if the food is there, then how to utilize it. In the utilization, we need to ensure that all the other aspects that support that are covered in utilization, about food and about sanitation, about clean water, health facilities, about the care practices has to be involved in all the advocacy message of food and nutrition security.
Sorry, Bume, 2 minutes more.
Okay, next. Next, Mas. Yeah, so the last part of this presentation is about the program of Voice for Change partnerships. This is a global project that is being implemented in 6 countries, including in Indonesia. And in this program, we are working to support the government to contributing in supporting global target on SDGs in Indonesia and national targets. So we're working in 2 areas. First is food and nutrition security, and the second one is water and sanitation. Through this program, in this program, we support our community society organization. They are the partner in this program to foster collaboration among relevant stakeholders, to influence agenda setting and hold the government and private sector accountability for the promise and action. The partner in the program is IFPRI, International Food Policy Research Institute, that's supporting us to create evidence that can be used as one of the advocacy tools in this program. And we have 9 partners. We have 5 in entity and NTB. We have Yayasan Ayu Indonesia, Bengkel APEC, and YPPS in entity. We have Konsepsi and Transform in NTB, and we have Lembaga Pengkajian dan Pemberdayaan Masyarakat in Sumatera, and also PKBI Sumatera Barat. And in Lampung, we have Yayasan Mitra Bentala and Yayasan Konservasi Waste Putih. Next. Yes, so for Voice for Change partnerships, we started the program in 2016 and will end in the end of this year. So in each phase of the program, we divided this like in all our advocacy. First, in all our advocacy process, we are keep working with various stakeholders in the frame of multi-stakeholder partnerships, and together we're trying to ensure that the representative of all community elements are targeted, engaged, heard, and benefited. So for 2018, we defined the big theme for the implementation of advocacy is how to involve more women and men in our advocacy process and activities, and also we're working with religious leaders to involve them in our advocacy process. In 2019, we engage more with people with disability, with youth, with media, and with private sectors. And in 2020, again, we are trying to engage more with youth and millennials in all our advocacy activities. And we ask them we ask about what they want about stunting and all the malnutrition issues, and then we give them opportunity to speak out, to support in our advocacy process in whole program, not only in food and nutrition security, but also our colleagues in water, sanitation, and hygiene sectors. They are also engaged more with youth and millennials from 2019 up to now 2020. Also with disability, people with disability, media, and private sectors. The last one, I think learning from all the process of advocacy that implementing by us and also other stakeholders that working in advocacy for food and nutrition security. We think that it is requires willingness and that spirit and also real action to working together. That and this in the frame of working together, we need to involve all the element, not only for government but for the community, and playing each roles to achieve inclusive and sustained food and nutrition security. So advocacy should be inclusive, meaning that we need to engage with all elements, not only government but also the community, because for the community, so we need to ensure that their voices are heard and the community are benefited from the activities. And advocacy should be framed into in multi-stakeholder approach, and also we need to use the evidence in the process of advocacy to create more evidence that can help to convince the government and other related stakeholders about the issue that we are advocating for. The process of this inclusive advocacy is not always easy. There are many obstacles, and still there are remains homeworks that we need to work on, but this inclusive advocacy is possible to do. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Bu Mei, for sharing an interesting topics. May I highlight a point for your presentation that advocacy should be inclusive, engaging with all elements in the community to ensure their voice are heard and they are benefit from the activities. Also, advocacy should be framed in multi-stakeholders approach and collaborative works. Again, thank you very much, Bumi. Well, next, the third speakers, we have Ibu Yuni Setianingsi, SKPM MSc. I will read the curriculum vitae. Yeah. Ms. Yuni took a Bachelor of Communication and Community Development Science in Bogor Agriculture University, or now we know as APB University in Indonesia, and MSc International Development Studies, specializing in Communication, Technology, and Policy at Wageningen University and Research, the Netherlands, of course with LPDP scholarship. She has many work experience since 2009, such as program officer at PT Sentra Multicom, and then Elsevier Foundation and external partnership. And now she worked at SNV as technical officer advocacy, food and nutrition security (FNS), and she also BOD chair Millennial Voice Indonesia. You could follow her media social on Instagram at It's Uni World. So, okay, please welcome Her Excellency Yuni Setianingsi SKPM MSc to deliver her presentations. The time is yours, Bu Yuni.
Yes, hello everyone. Sorry, I cannot share screen right now. I don't know what's wrong. Can you help me?
Yeah, could you try again?
I don't know. I can share screen right now. Can you help me to share my PowerPoint?
Right. But Yuni, I still have your PPT here. I haven't had your PPT.
Yes, I will send it to you now. Usually it's not happening like this. I'm sorry for participants. But yeah.
You could try again to share your PPT because we already opened share screen.
Oh, I already opened my share screen. I have sent it to you, Ancha. Can you help me?
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so just wait from I downloaded your presentation here.
Do you find it?
Yes, I still downloaded it. I think it's too late. Okay. Wait.
Okay, maybe while Ancha is trying to prepare my PowerPoint, then I will start to introduce myself first. As Ancha introduced me previously, I'm Yunisia Ningsi. I work for SNV as a technical officer, advocacy, food and nutrition security. I'm also handling the communication for Voice for Change partnership program. And also I'm joining Millennials Voice this year, and I will share with you later my presentation. So this morning, I will present my presentation that's about millennials movement, the frontrunners of innovation for food and nutrition security. And because I promised to you that my presentation will be fun, I will try my best to do that. So it will be more like millennials, youth, teenagers. So I hope you guys will stay tuned at YouTube, also at Zoom. So as we know that Indonesia is approaching the demographic bonus in a couple of years. Okay, my presentation is being shared. Can you, yes, okay, thank you. All right, so next. So as we know that Indonesia is approaching the demographic bonus and then the golden Indonesia in 2045, which is, well, it's kind of very soon already, right? So, and the demographic bonus can be good, but also can be negative. It depends on how long or how good we are preparing the demographic bonus itself. So, for example, if we well prepared in bettering our quality of the human resource, or our millennials, our teenagers, our centennials, and others age group, so then the demographic bonus can be very benefiting Indonesia for the development of Indonesia. But if we do not prepare it, then we can it can be bad. For example, the natality rate can be very high, and also lots of early marriage, like young people get married and then have lots of babies, and then it will be uncontrollable. So that is really depends on how well prepared we are. Next. So lots of people think that millennials are the youngsters, or someone or everyone who are still young are millennials. But is it true? Next. So then who are millennials? Okay, so here I'm sharing a graphic about lots of variety of the generation of the population right now that's still living right now today. So as you know in the graphic that millennials are aging between 24 to 29 for this year 2020, because this graphic I'm sharing is the generation age in 2019. So yes, So if you guys are still like 20 or 19 or 18, you are not millennials, because millennials are those who were born between 1981 to 1989. So for example, myself, I'm still 30 years old and I was born in 1990. So then I am in the millennials group. But for the younger generation, for example, I have a lot of nieces who are still in high school or still in college. They are defined as the Generation Z. Maybe you guys are familiar with the term of Generation Z, but also the other name are Centennials. So it's kind of a bit similar between millennials and centennials in terms of the term, right? So those for the centennials are born between 1997 to 2012. So age right now is 7 years old, 8 years old to 23 years old today. But for the previous generation, we have Generation X, who are maybe our parents. So they right now age between 39 to 55 years old. And later are baby boomers. They are aged between 56 to 74 today. So they can be our grandparents right now. And the previous one are the silent generation, aging 75 to 92 today. So there's a lot of groups of the generation. Why this group are defined and why do they matter to the current development, especially for food and nutrition security? Next. Okay. But here I'm putting image. I really love this image. It's kind of cute, but also very informative. Says, you know, like the Generation Z are like a teenager type. They are very flexible and they are very expressive. But the millennials, they kind of a bit older. They are expressive too, but they are a bit, you know, serious kind of thing. And the Generation X is kind of our parents, right? And then the Generation Baby Boomers, even the baby boomers, but they are maybe our grandparents right now. But why they are categorized as the Baby Boomers and Generation X? The Baby Boomers, because after the World War II, there were lots of baby who are born, or the natality rate were very high. So that's why that generation are called baby boomers, because lots of baby were born after the World War II finished. And then the Generation X, after the baby boomers, are also called as baby buster. This kind of a reverse from baby boomers to baby busters, right? So because at that time, the natality rate are going very slow. So that's why it's called baby busters. So they are called right now or Generation X. But remember that no matter how old we are, we will always belong to the generation we were born. For example, myself, I was born in 1990. Then I will always be millennials. Even 10 years later, I cannot be Generation X, no, because it was determined when I was born at 1990. Next. Okay, understanding closer about millennials and centennials. So as we know that the centennials are true digital natives, because after they were born until now, the digitally world already exists. So they are really native on the digital world. But for the millennials, for example, myself, I'm putting myself as an example. So when I was a child, there was no digital world like right now. So but after I was high school, then the digital world started coming in. And then that's why we're called as a digital pioneers. But then I would also love the term of millennials versus centennials as Harry Potter versus Hunger Games. It's like a pop culture. So for when I was a teenager, Harry Potter was very, like, everyone loves Harry Potter, and it really portrays about the fantasy and magic worlds. And then after that, it really affects the millennials' perspectives and the characteristic. Then because millennials down at the bottom of my table, they are optimistic, and also they are purpose or motivated by bigger purpose, because when we were a kid or when we were a teenager, we were fed up with the fantasy and magic and the cultural pop. But the later generation, the centennials, they watch, for example, Hunger Games, that is more dystopian and rather than fantastical. So it's like, oh, the world are full of injustice, inequality, and etc., etc. So that's why they are more realistic, and they are kind of more proud of their individualism and like to be different. And they are deeply concerned about their employment options, and they are money or motivated by structure and job security instead of the motivated by a bigger purpose. So that's kind of a very different between millennials and the centennials. But unfortunately, most of the development works or a lot of projects are kind of make them as one category or one generation. But in fact, they are very different in terms of the age and also in terms of the interests, the characteristics, and etc., etc. Next. Okay, I really love the Schaeffer was saying that just because I know a generation you're a part of doesn't mean that I know everything about you. So the table that I was sharing with you, it's not necessarily that it is true, or it's not necessarily that it really describes you. So that was more generally in a general basis. Next. Okay, so it comes to the question, why do millennials and centennials have a significant role in food and nutrition security? So as we know that this year, Indonesia's productive population aging between 50 to 64 years old are 179.1 million people, while millennials right now are 63.5 million. So this generation, this young generation, are huge. So they take a lot of role in the development works, especially for the demographic bonus that we are approaching. And I think in 2030, estimated 65 millions, or predicted as 70% people in Indonesia will be in their reproductive age. So that's like a lot of amount of people. And unfortunately, as the fact that 4 out of 10 children in Indonesia right now are experiencing stunting, and Indonesia right now is one of the top 5 countries in the world with the highest stunting prevalence. So that's kind of a huge positivity in terms of lots of millennials and centennials, but on another side, the stunting rates are very huge as well. Next. Okay, and as we know that millennials and centennials have a huge increased awareness on healthy lifestyle. So I will explain later, I will explain later about the healthy lifestyle and the future across, as well as the future parents. As we know, the marriage status, as you can see on my slide, that right now they are single as about 27%, married with no child 7%, married with child are 64%. And so the married and child, 64% are a huge number, right? So they are really the future actors, as well as the current parents and the future parents. So we can conclude that the millennials and centennials are actually the heart of stunting and other forms of malnutrition prevention and reduction efforts. So then raising their awareness of healthy lifestyle and stunting, malnutrition, and health will contribute to preventing their children, their current children, or the children to come from malnutrition and stunting. Next. All right, so this is again about the characteristic between the baby boomers, the Generation X, and millennials and centennials. This table dividing millennials and centennials in one category based on that they are sharing a similarity in kind of way. So I really love also what Molly Brennan said, that while millennials keen on bettering the world, being authentic, making a positive difference and enriching experience, they strongly believe that the previous generation of leaders are problematically more concerned about profit and personal reward. So that's also a huge gap between the thinking among the generation toward the daily life, also toward the development works. So we can see on the table that the baby boomers are idealists, the Generation X are skeptical, the millennials and centennials are more pragmatic, and the baby boomers are about tomorrow and then beginning change and then doing and then about we or us. But the Generation X are more about suspended judgment, and they are more about today and about following the direction and about me or about myself. But the millennials and centennials, they are more realism. They think that it's not about tomorrow or today, but it's always important, and the time is always important for them. And they are looking for condition, and then they want to know first before doing or being. And then they think about others, because as I shared previously, that they believe or they really value about the bigger purpose about beyond themselves. So it's about others. So that's why they love the social work. They love a meaningful value if they want to do something. Next.
Sorry, but you need 5 minutes more.
Okay, thank you. And the front runners of innovation, these are run by millennials and the centennials. As we know, on food and nutrition security right now, the millennials and the centennials really redefine about healthy food. So they don't want to eat the same rice that everyone are eating. So they don't want to eat the same pizza that everyone is eating. They don't want to eat vegetable, the same vegetable that everyone is eating. So that's always redefining what is healthy and what is good and what is bad. And then also that's redefinition is about their own definition and the definition of their parents or from their grandmothers. And secondly, they innovate a better food as well as a baby food. So innovate a better food, as we know that there's a lot of variety of foods in the restaurants. So we can see like even a pizza or even a salad, it's really different between the millennials and centennial salads and maybe like my mother's salad. So it's really different way because they really want to be authentic, they want to be different, they want to be healthy, and but in a different way. And we know that, for example, when I was a child, I saw my sister fed their children with banana, but just a very regular banana, and then directly fed her children. But right now, for example, there's a lot of baby food types. We can see it on the YouTube or the other internet platform. Also in the supermarket, there's a lot of cups with a very different flavor of baby food, and etc., etc. And millennials and centennials like to snack, and they less a large meal. And we know that the large amount of snack in the supermarket are actually invented by the millennials. The snack of the current generation with the previous generation are totally different. And they love easy and practical things because they are more like pragmatic and realistic. And they love to customize. As we know, maybe the previous generation, the food menu are generally, for example, rawon food in East Java is that kind of rawon. But the millennials and centennials rawon, they want to customize based on their taste, based on their diet menu, and etc., etc. So we really need to understand what the current generation are likes and really prefer, so that we can target our food and nutrition programs to them. And then they're really keen on exploring a novelty. They are open-minded and curious, and they value environment and sustainability. So as we know that right now there are a lot of food with the labeling like eco-friendly or locally made food or organic food, and also earth-friendly food, and etc. etc. So the value of the millennials and centennials, that they really value a bigger purpose of themselves, really affects their food and nutrition dietary in their daily life. Next. So why millennials and centennials movement matter? So as we know that right now there are rocketing entrepreneurship among the youngsters, the millennials and centennials. Over 62% of the centennials would like to be their own boss or launch their own business or their own startup. And actually 3% of them are actually running their own business. And they're mission driven, so they want to create a change than the previous generation have been. And right now there's a very shifting phenomena that millennials increasingly lead innovation, digital technology, and business development in the country. A lot of startups led by millennials, I don't need to mention, but I believe that you already know how millennials are leading the digital technology and business development right now. And they're also best prepared for understanding and using future innovation. Next. Okay, so this is a statistic that shows that older internet users less likely to view the internet as a positive for the society. Even using the internet, the millennials are value as 73% that the usage of the internet really impacts the society, and then 90% impact to themselves compared to the previous generation. So and it really shows to us that they really believe a bigger value than themselves, and they want to do something other than only themselves. And the motivation for opening a business also, the first reason are ready to be my own boss because they are more realistic. And two, also wanted to pursue on my own passion, and then opportunity presented itself, and this satisfaction with corporate, and this graph is based on American data. And then 5, laid off or job outsourced. And then the happiness level when they're doing their own business are 45% of them score 10 of happiness level. So that's really show that they really love the authority, and they love to get a hold of themselves. And the top 5 small business industries, the third are food and restaurant. So the food and nutrition security are really potential to attract the millennials and centennials interests, because as we know, that is one of the top 5 small business that the millennials and centennials are building. Next.
Sorry, but I give you 2 minutes additional time for
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you. I promise it will be faster. Okay, and the challenges, the stereotype on the younger demographic, as we know, the deep saying Indonesia anak muda masih bawa kencur, that means the youngster cannot do better than the older generation, and then the limited platform for millennials to participate in stunting and prevention reduction efforts, and lots of untapped potential that have not been covered. And centennials often experience nutritional problems such as thin and very thin, that can be their own diet choice, or maybe because of the low understanding about the importance of the nutrition, and extra. And lots of centennials also experience short and very short, and also micronutrient deficiencies. Next. So what's next? So the government, the INGO, or the universities, the private sectors, the media, and need to work together in a multi-stakeholder platform. And they need to understand that it's really important to invest in millennials or centennials leaders. As I said, that millennials and centennials love to get a hold of themselves, they love the authority. So it's really important to make or encourage the youngsters to be leaders, and promote diversity and gender equality and inclusivity, because they really purpose-driven culture that they really want to make it happen. And they love the opportunity for their advancement in the career and also in the knowledge term, in understanding what they really want and need, and also minimize the impact gap. What I mean with impact gap is that the youngsters think that the older generation are more like money or business driven without valuing the communities, the environment, etc., etc. So right now the project should really minimize the impact gap so that it will encourage the younger generation to also join. And the campaign targeted specifically the millennials and the centennials should be soon initiated. And as the Indonesia is entering demographic bonus, and that creating a platform for millennials with an interest in nutrition to be a cost-effective initiative to expand the coverage of public health messages and information. Next. Next, please. Okay, so I will just sharing very short because my time is running out. We are actually have Millennials Voice platform. So I will right now I would like to invite all the younger generation, both millennials and the centennials, to come and join us. We have lots of fun and also meaningful works to do. So don't worry, we have fun things, but it's also very impactful both to the society, to the environment, and a bigger purpose that you guys really would love to make it happen. Next. Next, please. So this is the photos that we were organizing. And then if you want to know or find out us on the social media, feel free to follow or to subscribe or to find out more about the Millennials Voice or other millennials and centennials movement that we are doing. So thanks very much. And I hope you enjoy the presentation, and I hope that it's useful. Thank you, Anta.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mbak Yuni, for giving such informative and interesting presentation about millennials. May I highlight some point from your presentation about the millennials? I think we should invite millennials to participate and develop innovation and for food and nutrition security, and of course millennials in gender sensitive development planning, social inclusion, and climate change adaptation, and raising awareness about food and nutrition security, especially to importance of stunting prevention and reduction. Okay, again, thank you very much, Mbak Yuni, for your presentation, and hopefully participants still enjoy the presentation. Keep cozy in front of your screen. We have two more important and interesting speakers. Well, next speakers, we have Pak Nanang Nasrullah, STP MSI. I will read the CV first. Pak Nanang graduate from Technology Agriculture Brawijaya University for bachelor degree, and for master degree he graduated from Food Science IPB University, and he has a lot of study in food and nutrition as well as community program such as customer satisfied in Pelni, and he also wrote a book Index Potensi Daerah in 2013, and has published research entitled Pectin Extraction of Limo Citrus Peel in Asian Food Conference in Bali 2019. Okay, well, please welcome His Excellency Nanang Nasrullah to deliver his presentation. The time is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you, Pak Anca, for the opportunity. So I will present, okay, for the slide. Good morning, everyone. Excellency, Rector of UPN Veteran Jakarta, Honorable Country Director of SNV Indonesia, and also respectable to all speakers and participants of this webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. I would like to present regarding enhancing food and nutrition security through science and innovation. Next. Next. Okay. I'm starting with this quote from Khalil Gibran. I often found this quote when discussing about food security. This quote looks like reflecting food insecurity. Yes, pity the nation if they cannot produce their own food. Even a small sized country such as Singapore, they have to try to fulfill their foods. A condition related to the ongoing availability of the food is called as food security, or the state of having reliable access to a sufficient quantity of affordable and nutritious food. Next. This is our first president of Indonesia, Mr. Sukarno. Once time he said that food is a matter of life and death for the nation. It means that food is something for us. He also said that the freedom, not only political, but also how to manage rights, or we can say, what you call it, the country should manage food well. If a government cannot manage the food security, the fall is just about a matter of time. Next. For the introduction of this presentation, there are some outline I have to mention. Firstly, the right to food is recognized as a fundamental human right. This is recognized as a key guiding principle in support of food security and nutrition. And the second, now we are facing the pandemic COVID-19 and its impact to economic crisis. Some people lost the access to food, so the government should handle it. So food security is a key for government throughout the world, including Indonesia, to overcome this issue. Because as the first level of Maslow's needs hierarchy, the availability as well as physical, social, and economic access to food must be guaranteed as the right to food. Next. Next. Understanding of the concept of security have changed and evolved from time to time. The term food security was first defined at the World Food Conference in 1974, when food prices high and concern about the impact of market turmoil on world hunger. In that context, food security was defined. This definition reflected the dominant thinking at the time that hunger was the product of lack availability of sufficient food supplies at the global level and of international price instability. Before this term defined, food security, the only thing people know is just how to be sufficient in order to get food, especially staple food. Furthermore, at the time, there was a research that explained why famines arose in certain contexts, even though food is available enough. This research led to important breakthroughs in understanding of food insecurity. The research showed that availability is only one component of the picture of why hunger persists, and that a person's ability to access food is extremely important. It also showed that there are a number of factors such as market condition, employment and livelihood, and ownership of assets that have to explain why some of the world's most vulnerable people have been unable to access food, even in situations of abundant food supply. This was reflected in FAO's 1983 definition of security as access of all people, ensuring that all people at all times have both physical and economic access to the basic food that they need. And also on 1986, the World Bank defined food security as access of all people at all times to enough food for an active, healthy life. Then on 1996, both definition was combined. The two last definition was combined and further updated to incorporate nutritional and cultural dimension. Lastly, with the addition of the word social in FAO 2001 in next meeting, the definition stated as next Next slide, please. This definition is the lastly definition remains the most authoritative and widely used up to date. From the previous speaker, there is an updated definition with additional praise, and is supported by an environment of adequate sanitation, health, services, and care, allowing for a healthy and active life. Next. From this definition, the aforementioned dimensions of food security are also recognized, either explicitly or implicitly. Food ability represents at all times of the mission. Food access reflected physical, social, and economic aspect. Then food availability related to sufficient. And the last, food utilization represents safe and nutritious food that meets their needs. These four dimensions, food ability, food access, food utilization, and feasibility, build the overall framework of the definition. These four dimensions have been seen as central to the concept. Not just availability and access, but also utilization and stability. These four dimensions have also been highlighted consistently in the literature on food security and nutrition. For food security objective to be realized, all four dimensions must be fulfilled together, so no one of the dimensions left, all must be fulfilled. Although the previous four dimensions of security remain central to the concept, they still miss some elements that have come to be seen as essential for transforming food system. In the direction needed to meet the SDGs, as we know, SDGs has 15 goals to achieve, and the high-level panel of experts on security and nutrition, or HLPE, has proposed the additional dimension. First, agency and then sustainability. You can see from this picture. Agency and sustainability are vital dimensions of security that directly, on the basis from the principle of the right to food. The addition of this dimension to common understanding of security reflects finding and analysis in the scholarly literature over the past decades. The mention of all times implies not only short-term instabilities in food system, but also the long-term dimension that the sustainability dimension can capture. The mention of all people as well as food preference in the definition signals the importance of some key aspect of agency. Because it is important that all people have the capacity not only to access sufficient and nutritious food that meet their dietary needs, but also their free choice as to the food they eat and produce. Next. Next. The concept of agency in food system is connected to human rights, including the right to food. This aspect implies that the capacity of individuals, of groups, to make their own decision about what food they eat, what food they produce, how the food is produced, processed, and distributed within food system, and the ability to engage in process that safe food system policy and governance. Stability means that food is secure for a short time. Then sustainability refers to the long-term ability of food system. I'm sorry, previous slide. Okay, thank you. Food security and nutrition today. Sustainability is recognized as important aspect of ensuring the right to food, ensuring the food needs of the present generations up to the future generation. So it is vital to incorporate sustainability into the concept, also agency. Indonesia has adopted already the concept of security as defined previously into national law. The last law is number 18, 2012, This law is a revision or amendment of previous law number 7, 1996. Four dimensions of food security are adapted into some goals: food sovereignty, food resilience or food sufficiency, and food safety. Those are the goals of food security. Next slide, please. Okay, this figure is food system networks proposed by HPE. These show interrelations of food nutrition with other systems and related to the complex interaction of all SDGs. This picture recognizes the complexity of relationship among the systems that support food production, food supply chains, food environments, the behavior of individual consumers, diet and nutritional and wider outcomes. It captured the ways in which complex drivers of change of large scale that affect the function of food system. The systems that support food production include ecosystem, human system, energy system, economic system, and health system, which provide essential inputs into the food system. We can see also that food system policy and governments that are guided by the principle of the right to food are most likely to support the dimension of security. Next slide. Okay, these are the drivers of change in the 21st century based on the book from the Future of Food and Agriculture Trends and Challenge from FAO. They are the trends in the drivers of food system change that influence food system outcomes. The trends in food system drivers have important implications for food security and food system outcomes. These trends on the left represents biophysical, environmental, technology, innovation and infrastructure, economic and market, political, institutional, socio-cultural, and demographic. For example, population growth, urbanization, and aging classified as the demographic aspect. Climate change represents biophysical and environmental. Next. Next slide, please. So these are the challenges for food and nutrition security based on the Food Security Agency. There are some drivers as a challenge. The urgent and worsening food and nutrition situation due to COVID-19 crisis make this finding even more timely and relevant. The crisis has been a wake-up call to address the multiple complex challenges facing food system, and it demands measures to improve food system, to make them not only more resilient to crisis, but also more equitable and inclusive, empowering and respectful, regenerative, healthy and nutritious, as well as productive and prosperous for all. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Pak Nanang, you have 5 more minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. At the beginning of 2020, there were 135 million around the world already facing extreme hunger. According to the World Food Program, that figure could rise to 265 million people by the end of this year. Next slide, please. So food and losses are also the challenge to food security. We can see that losses of food very high. This requires a dramatic increase in agricultural production, which must be achieved against a backdrop of issues such as climate change. So the need to intensify production on extra land rather than relying too heavy on new one, which would require deforestation, will also require new technologies all along the agricultural chain to boost production and replenish overworked farmland. Next. Next, please. This is the role of science for food and nutrition security. Now, take a look at the ancient ancestor of banana on the right. It's different completely with the banana today. Modern techniques, genetically modifying crops, involve transferring DNA, but our ancestors began altering the food through crossbreeding or planting seed at different times of the year. Next. This is also some of the crossbreeding from previously corn. On the right is corn today, but on the left is a corn ancestor. It means that what we have eaten is modified plant or fruit. Next, please. This picture shows how science and technology support and enhance food security from farm to plate. We can see that in the breeding and farming on the farm need agronomy and harvest science. And at the post-harvest needs how to make a post-harvest treatment, how to handling the crops or animal harvested, including the storage. When processing continues into the product, it needs the science of food processing and packaging up to the consumption. So people at the last change will consume as they intake nutrition to get healthy, active, and or productive life. Next. I'm sorry, the previous slide. Okay. This on-farm science and technology, the science required to increase the yield, such as crop protection. Okay, and is processing technology about the food, as the final chain to the value chain with food and nutrition science approach on food processing up to the consumption. People will have nutritious intake and be active and productive with good nutrition. Next. So what are the innovation for foods and nutrition security? Innovation means new idea, device, or process. The most important of innovation is when innovation invented, not just about technology, but also how to practice and services. Next slide. These examples of innovation implemented in food and nutrition security. The terminology 4.0 also influenced to food and nutrition, such as this framework. There is some innovation already implemented and some other innovation is the upcoming trend applied, such as hydroponic, vertical urban farming, drone technology, and the upcoming technologies such as blockchain, 3D printing, etc. Next, please. Okay, this is an example of innovation in food and nutrition applied. Rice fish farming. From this system, the farmers can harvest rice and fish all at once. So the income double, and not only carbohydrate source from rice, but also protein from fish. It makes the consumption or intake of the nutrient is better. Next. Next slide. Okay, this is another innovation, hydroponic. Hydroponic system has been developed rapidly. We can find many types of hydroponics, such as aquaponics and aeroponic. And the hydroponic is a key for vertical farming or urban farming that replace the soil with a nutrient-rich water solutions. This is due to the limitation of the feed for planting or land is not available. Aquaponic is the combination of aquaculture of hydroponics. So these are the green vertical or indoor farming based on aquaponics and hydroponic. Vertical farming adopted by building a large environment for plantation. It is ideal where land isn't available.
So sorry, Pak Nanang, time is up, but I give you additional time, 2 minutes to finish your presentation.
Okay, okay. This is a program to optimize land. Okay, next. Sustainable home yard fruit garden, urban farming, part of the hydroponic and also aquaponic. Next. Okay, this a kind of innovation for urban agriculture, the technique named budidaya ikan dalam embor, that it was initiated by a lecturer from State Polytechnic Lampung, Pak Juli Nur Sandi. It widespread applied during the COVID pandemic-19. The picture on the right is the rooftop garden. So we can cultivate the rice garden or rice other plant in our rooftop. Next is innovation is autonomous robot. Autonomous robot can pick and identify fruit and vegetables. Next. Next slide. Autonomous robot pickers identify and pick fruits and vegetables. Other specialist robot could also find and emit which this this Internet of Things data collected from other parts combined into big data. It is difficult to change the data by blockchain technology. Information about the picture, product, and quantity into the product. So we know exactly how to supply and demand is. This shows you how big data collected simultaneously. You can predict when the harvest is and how many foods you have produced and distributed. So this is the part of precision farming, and also this another innovation, genetic engineering, using food is modified rice, genetically modified rice. This high creatine rice can solve the problem of vitamin preferency, maybe also stunting. Maybe here, Bapak Ibu, if you want to make yellow turmeric rice, you don't need to add turmeric because the color of rice already yellow. But it could be a different taste because the turmeric contributed to the taste of yellow turmeric rice. Next. Next, please. So this part of the genetic engineering. Okay, next. Next slide. And is this using single cell protein? The meat can be produced without animal or livestock. It is formed in the lab using animal cell. Okay, this one is innovation regarding food diversification. Food diversification could be from source or to product. For example, to produce vegetable not from the rice, or make another rice from any other ingredients. But for the product, as food diversification is, we can make bread from non-wheat bread. As we know, the main ingredient for making bread is wheat flour. What is a subtropic plant? So it is hard to cultivate here. Then if we need bread or any other food product, of course, we need this imported food. Many innovations are trying to cover this issue, such as modified starch from cassava starch as a wheat substitution for the ingredients. Here are the samples of the product. Rice is the staple food for the majority of the Indonesian people. Rice consumption increased every year following with population growth. So the last one, those technologies and innovation focus on the availability and access to food. We can see that what we are producing differently from what we should consume. We can compare what we are producing with eating plate model from Hazard or from Indonesia named isi piringku. There is a gap. So the most important problem is how to nourish people, such as a stunting issue. The availability of food has become greater, but its ability to nourish the people, the population has declined. From the previous speaker, we have talked about some innovation for utilization, such as Rasta program and program involving the millennial or centennial to participate in food and nutrition security effort. And maybe also the next speaker will tell you about the solution to overcome how to nourish people. Okay.
Sorry, Pak Nanang. Yeah, I think.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Time for the moderator.
Okay. So thank you very much for Pak Nanang Nasrullah for giving us an update information in food and nutrition innovation. That was very interesting. May I highlight some point for your presentation? I saw there are many innovation on food and nutrition. We may do, for an example, on science application, on precision farming, genetic engineering, cultured meat, food diversification, and so on. So of course this may impact the food and nutrition security on the future. Okay, next, the last but not the least, Ibu Rahayu Indriasari SKM MPHCN PhD. I will read the curriculum vitae. Bu Rahayu graduate from Faculty of Public Health Hasanuddin University in Makassar, Indonesia for bachelor degree, and she took master as well as the PhD in from School of Population Health, University of Queensland, Brisbane, Australia. She has a plenty research and program. The latest two are education through mobile apps to prevent stunting in Banggai district, and also promotion of healthy breakfast for primary school children among mothers and teachers at schools in slum area of Makassar. She also has plenty publication, like the new one, alarming nutrition problems among adolescent students attending Islamic boarding schools in Indonesia, published in Evermeria Clinica 2020. Well, please welcome Her Excellency Ibu Rahayu Indriasari to deliver her presentation. The time is your book.
Okay, thank you, moderator, for introducing me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, wherever you are. I'm very grateful that I can have this opportunity to join you all for this international webinar. And I would like to present about school-based food nutrition program that's very closely linked to the intervention or as an approach to alleviate food insecurity. So basically, my presentation will cover 4 parts four major parts. So first, I will start with the reasons why we need to focus on school-age children. Previous presentations already mentioned, but this I would like to emphasize again, because this is very important message. So globally, there is a great number of children and adolescents aged 5 to 19 years, and almost 90% of them live in low and middle income countries. And we also know that the prevalence and consequences of malnutrition and inadequate intake of nutrients have been well studied among children in their first 1,000 days of life. However, the study for the next 7,000 days of life is being neglected. So here I would like to present some documented nutrition problems among the school-age children. So first, that malnutrition among children and adolescents aged 5 to 19 years actually constitute to 27% of population in low middle income countries. However, there is limited information regarding malnutrition problem and its consequences among this group. And from the scarcity of data, there are some nutrition problems. First is micronutrient deficiency, which is iron deficiency, and iron deficiency anemia become a major problem because it accounts for important dailies for 1,000 adolescents. And the other problem is vitamin A deficiency and other vitamin and minerals deficiency, but because of the depth of data, it seems still few. And also another problem is underweight. So the children and adolescents, it is found that more boys compared to girls become underweight or thin. And another important problem is stunting. So this is found from limited data among girls in some countries, and we can see here that in certain countries, the prevalence is even higher than 50%. And actually, the children and adolescents are not only dealing with undernutrition and micronutrient deficiency, but they also face with overeating. This is due to the shifting of food habits because of the food and nutrition transition. So they become eating too much foods or foods high in, high consumption of food with low nutrient density. And this become a problem of overweight and obesity, not only in high income countries, but also in low and middle income countries. So here we can see that actually school-age children face a serious nutrition problem, which is they face triple burden of malnutrition. And these malnutrition problems have consequences. So first, it increased risk of underweight, anemia, and health-related illness. And also, because of this condition, they will decrease attendance and school performance, and then later on have negative consequences on their educational and health outcomes. Physical growth, failure in physical growth and mental development, along with micronutrient inadequacy, also put them in high risk of chronic disease in adulthood. Another consequence is also that undernutrition imposes significant economic costs on individuals and nations, and overnutrition put them on the risk of poor metabolic profile that will lead to chronic disease and mortality later in life. So it is clear that we need to invest in these school-age children. We can see that the evidence show that poor diets and malnutrition already have negative effects on their health, school performance, and ability that can hinder their productivity and earning potential later. So the next reason why we have to focus on this group, that investing in human capital, it needs, it is a matter for people, economic, society, and global stability, because it can strengthen a country's competitiveness in global arena. And the next reason, that because building human capital not only depends on qualified education, but providing good health and nutrition status for children and adolescents can enable them to participate and learn in school, and then later on they can earn more and more productive as an adult. And this transformation will continue into the next generation, that become the improvement of health of their own children, and also creating long-term cycle of economic growth and progress. So now this is the second part of my presentation, that we will see what has been happening in countries that implement school-based food and nutrition programs. So first, these are the reasons mentioned why we need to invest in school settings. So it is a place where human resources are built, dreams and aspirations are nurtured, and it is an ideal platform and a good entry point to create multiple sectoral collaborations and also engaging community. So actually the school-based food and nutrition program or approach, it started with school feeding program that previously based on the food insecurity related with hunger. So when children go to school with hungry stomach, they will not able to pay attention to the learning task. And the initiative was to provide meals or snacks to alleviate short-term hunger from these children so they can learn well. And this approach begins in European countries, USA, and also Netherlands become the first have a national legislation regarding school feeding program, and also in South Africa. And school feeding program also become one of the first public welfare programs worldwide, and among the first interventions to be widely delivered through the education sector. So in the 20th century, school feeding program viewed as delivering food aid only. But then later, in the 2000s, the education sector drove change with the launch of fresh framework supported by many UN agencies and others international agencies to provide a policy context for school-based health interventions that include school feeding. And also the role of agricultural sector become more prominent in this period. So the objectives of school feeding program is expand from intervening social safety net, ensuring food security to those who need help the most, to be as a promoting, to be as a promotion for health, nutrition, and education, which is related to the building of human capital. So the program linked to the local agriculture, additional economic and social benefits to school children household and their neighboring communities. So school feeding program also support the achievement of some SDGs. So here's the benefits, major benefits of school feeding programs. So it will benefit the education sector, social protection, agriculture, and of course, health and nutrition of the children. So what are the modality of the school feeding program that has been implemented in some countries? First, we talk about the food provided. So some countries serve breakfast, school breakfast, or school lunch, or school snacks, and also some of countries provide foods. The provision of food is based on centralized or decentralized agency that deliver food commodities or deliver fund to the implementer at local level. And also there's another, there are some countries implement additional intervention like school or home gardening and involve local smallholders to provide the food. And the preparation of food in many countries is in situ preparation, involving cooks or parents, teacher, family, community kitchen, and so on. And some of the countries also employ catering and food industry. And most of the countries also complement this food provision with the warming, food and nutrition education, hygiene, sanitation, and other interventions. And for the countries who implement the school feeding programs, many of them already developed nutrition guidelines and standards for the meals. So this is the targeted macronutrient and micronutrient contents. So we can see here that some countries set the standard for achieving 30% of total energy requirement for lunch and so on. And also in the guidelines, they define minimum portion sizes for specific food preferences and also restricting in some food groups. And fewer countries provide details about provision of vegetables, legumes, milk, dairy, and the use of oil. So we can see here that actually nutrition guidelines and standards that develop already cover many aspects of food and nutrition that will enhance the nutrition status of school children who receive the meals. And next we will see the implementation in countries. What is the country experience? What is the impact of the programs, problem and challenge, and what are the key to successful? So here I present the implementation in Indonesia. I pick up one example. We can see here that a school feeding program actually has been conducted about 20 years ago in Indonesia. Started from a pilot school feeding program that provides snacks and also continue to the program that implemented in specific areas, underdeveloped villages. And then in 1998, it is nationally implemented in all provinces. So this three stage providing snacks and then other complementary interventions. And we can see here that actually some positive outcomes have been achieved. And then when the economic crisis emerged, so the program discontinued, and then re-implementation around 2010 in 27 provinces in Indonesia. But because of technical problems and other problems, it didn't achieve improvement in nutritional status of the targeted children. And then started from 2016, there's a pilot trial of program Gizi Anak Sekolah that started in 3 provinces. And this is already changed that they provide school breakfast rather than snacks, and they improve the nutrient contents of the meals. So it is in the review that it is found that there's a significant increase in energy and protein intake among the intervention group. So another impact of school feeding program that documented from many research that it is in educational sector, it is increased school enrollment, retention for school, and then impact of attendance and few impacts on learning abilities. And also it is impact on the positive outcome of gender equality, where increasing number of adolescent girls stay in school. So it is also lead to prevention or delay child marriage because the girls stay longer at school. And the impact, another impact on health and nutrition, that it can reduce anemia, and also it can promote macronutrient and micronutrient adequacy in children diets. So promote change in diets, and also help to set the children to have healthier diets. But for this impact, experts suggest that there are still need more evidence, still needs more studies to provide solid evidence.
Sorry, Bu, 4 minutes more.
Okay, thank you. Some impact of school feeding program also, we know that increased economy for local farmers, and also employ local women, and also for the local economies and economic and agricultural sectors, it can boost local agriculture, and also sales of foods, and increase household income, and also other food commodities like eggs and fish has an increased consumption. So from these experiences in many countries, I found out some keys to success, for successful implementation. That first, it needs strong policy support to reinforce particularly school food environment. So even though there is a full meals provided for the children, but there is a chance for food waste if the regulation at the school it's not support. For instance, the children or the students can still access to unhealthy snacks or unhealthy foods available around the school. And also strategic partnerships and collaborations. This is already happened in many countries that get assistance from World Food Program, from FAO, and etc. And also, of course, well-designed of the program and governance will enhance the effectiveness, and high commitment from all of the parties involved, including the school community. When we talk school community, we talk about students, parents, teachers, and all of that involved in the school. And coordination from different levels, this is also very important. And community engagement, like Mbak Yuni said, millennials have a potential, very high potential to be involved. So maybe this is the time to involve them. And monitoring and evaluation, of course, also this is sometimes become a problem when we want to evaluate the effectiveness and the impact of the program. So this is also problems and challenges. So we've talked about problems already, like the country, some countries still have low coverage, I think including in Indonesia. And also the capacity at all levels, it's still low, and the synergy between program relevant interventions, this is sometimes not fully exploited in practice. So sometimes, for example, school feeding program delivered by Ministry of Education and Health Department. It's not synergic collaboration with other departments. And the challenges here, many challenges are still need to encounter to improve the effectiveness of the program and to achieve the impact of the program. So quickly, this is the school food and nutrition framework that recently established by FAO. We can download it, the book actually, and we can see here that school community is a multi setting that need to need to be involved here. And if we want to achieve successful school food and nutrition program, we have to collaborate with this and achieve each setting. And to conclude, so first, I would like to restate again the importance to invest in improvement of nutrition and health of school-age children, and also the aim of a school-based food and nutrition program, not only hunger alleviation, but to build human capital. And the positive impact already shown in educational performance, gender equality contributes to health and nutrition. But again, still in some area, more research are still needed to provide strong evidence. And last, school and food nutrition program not only as an food aid program, but we have to implement as a multi-approach strategy to provide more benefits but here has to depends on the local context and country situation. I think that's become the last of my presentation. Thank you very much. I'm waiting for comments and questions. Back to you, moderator.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Rahayu. Very nice presentation and very nice slide too. I really like your last mention about successful school food and nutrition program is not only about food aid program, but also a multi-approach strategy to provide more benefits depends on local context and country situation. That's interesting for the future, I think. Okay, so next I will give you an information for all participants. E-certificate is available for both Zoom and YouTube participants, but the requirements are fill the attendance list. Later we'll say, oh yeah, you can see on the screen, and follow the social media below, Instagram at gizi.upnpj and at millennialvoice_id, and of course Twitter at mvoice_id, and don't forget to subscribe YouTube SNP, and then materials from the speaker will only be provided if you follow the speakers Instagram. It's Uniwar and May Tatengkeng at May Tatengkeng. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to Q&A session, and we have one participant to have live questions. So I think maybe a technical operator can help me to assist Elmi is here. Hello, Elmi. Yeah. Yeah, we have Elmi Sumarni Ismail. Will deliver a live question. Okay, so please, Elmi.
Halo.
Yes.
Ya. Selamat siang, terima kasih atas kesempatan yang diberikan. Perkenalkan, saya Elmi dari Gerakan Advokasi Transformasi Disabilitas untuk Inklusi atau Garamin NTT. Saya ingin bertanya kepada Ibu Rahayu, Program gizi seperti apa yang diterapkan di sekolah SLB dan sekolah-sekolah umum? Dan apakah program tersebut dilakukan di sekolah SLB atau sekolah-sekolah umum untuk penyandang disabilitas? Dan bagaimana dengan penyandang disabilitas usia sekolah yang tidak bersekolah? Terima kasih.
So maybe Ibu Rahayu, you can answer shortly about the questions.
Okay. Thank you for the questions. Basically, the school feeding program for this different group, disability and non-disability children, it's not very different because they have to based on the nutrition guidelines and standards to fulfill the nutritional needs and health of the children. One thing that maybe can make a difference that because disability children have a special needs, and the provision, I mean the delivery method of the foods perhaps a little bit different for this special group. And also because for instance, if we talk about what is it, the children that have low ability to focus, so they cannot sit still on the table and to finish their foods themselves. So this is have to be this needs a special strategy. So the food that provide to them, they can finish or they can consume. So for the nutrition guidelines standards, it's not different, but I mean the strategy to provide the food to this target group maybe slightly different.
Okay, so thank you very much, Bu Rahayu. Elmi is a representative from disability organization. Name is Garamin. Okay, next, I would like to choose 5 questions from the form. We have so many questions here. I will read each question for each speakers, and later you can directly answer and then give your closing statement, because now we run off the time. We have a limited time for now. And the first question is delivered to Nick from Devrina Kaban. Devrina Kaban is a health worker in Puskesmas Cipunagara, Subang. The question is, what intervention can be done to a massive number stunting children at the age below 2 years old? Because I found we have 17% stunting children in our regency. Population of balita under 5 years old, like around 4,800, and she realized distributing of foods such as milk and biscuits won't help all of those children, and we don't have enough fund for it. So what's the kinds of intervention can be done for this situation, Nick? Could you answer, Nick, in shortly and give your closing statement, please?
Yes, thank you. It's an excellent question, and it's a question that researchers are wrestling with, researchers and policymakers and development agencies. I don't think there's an easy, quick answer. I think in the long run, there's a need for income growth, but obviously children who are 1 year old can't wait until the economy improves and incomes rise. So we need programs and policies that will help people in the meantime. I think that the school feeding programs that we just heard about are a good approach, because it both improves attendance and it increases attention and provides nutrition to school-age kids. However, there are kids that are not yet school age who also need assistance. I think that programs that Indonesia is already implementing to monitor and identify cases where children's growth is too slow, or they're falling behind in terms of height or in terms of weight. You mentioned, the eternal problem of not having enough funds. I think that targeting households and individuals who face problems of food insecurity and malnutrition is one way to reduce costs. I think there are opportunities to use mobile phones and other ICT in terms of both monitoring and providing advice to mothers. The usual things of sort of a prenatal care and good nutrition in the expecting mothers, as well as postnatal care and breastfeeding for 6 months and so on. So there isn't any one thing, but I think that with consistent effort in prenatal care, breastfeeding, monitoring child growth, and providing safety nets, income safety nets, and school feeding, that combination of policies will do a lot to, has done a fair amount and will do more to reduce the incidence of stunting and other types of poor nutrition. Well, I don't have any, final words of wisdom, but I just would like to say that it's been a great pleasure to participate in this webinar. And I think there are a lot of fantastic ideas that have been brought up, and I look forward to continuing to work on these issues in Indonesia and elsewhere. And given the level of energy and interest and knowledge in Indonesia, I'm sure that the country will continue to make progress and deliver services and improved nutrition to all children and adults as well. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Nick, for your answer and your statement. The last statement is very interesting and very important to us. So hopefully we can work with you later also. So for the next question to our second speaker, to Ibu Mei, we have Ibu Ferliani Francisca from Puskesmas Roga entity. I think this is came from Sam from your province.
Yeah.
The question is, could you provide maybe advice or tips so that advocacy activities for policymakers can run well, and what is proposed can be carried out by local policymakers?
Okay, thank you for the question. Advocacy is a very has a dynamic process which requires the ability to identify the change and also the opportunity to redesign the approach, methods, and the strategy. So I think if you're asking about the special tips, learning from the advocacy process that has been implementing by us and our partners, we use this multi-stakeholders partnership. So we are working together with many actors in the field, including people from Puskesmas. We're working with PKK, religious leaders, youth, millennial platform, media, academics, and people with disability and their organizations. So we work with many people that have the same interest with us. For example, for this multi-stakeholder partnership that we are using is in one area, in entity, in the location that we are working, we have like a forum, or we call it a forum, a food and nutrition forum, and the member of the forum are the representative from government officers, religious leaders, CSO, women, youth, academics, and together they do the advocacy to the government and to the other people about stunting prevention and reduction. So this forum working together, we cannot just like working by one person or one actor to do advocacy. We have to working together under the multi-stakeholder partnerships umbrella. Also, the use of evidence is very important. We use the evidence that we created together with for instance, with Dinas Kesehatan, with IFPRI, with the institutional, academic institutional, and then we use that evidence to convince the government or related stakeholder about such issue in our program about stunting reduction and prevention. That's the advice based on the experience of in our program that we can share with you. And about the closing statement, I think first of all, thank you very much for this, for the opportunity to have this collaborative webinar with IFPRI, with UPN, with UNHAS. This is a very good opportunity for us to work together and together to voice out about food and nutrition security. And advocacy for food and nutrition security, yes, it is requires the involvement of and the voice of all elements in the community. Also, the use of evidence under the umbrella of multi-stakeholder partnerships. The advocacy itself, it is challenging, but it is possible, and together we can do it. We can do it in order to reach the inclusive and sustained food and nutrition security. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Bu Mei. And next question to Bu Yuni. The question from Himawati Harisatul Ihsani. She is a college student from Universitas Aisyah Yogyakarta. The question is, she mentioned that regarding the involvement of youth group in making stunting and malnutrition prevention programs, what is the example of real approaches should be taken as a first step? Because what we know is adolescence is still in a transition phase. So maybe you can answer, Bu Yuni, and giving you full statement. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ancha, and thank you for the participants to give the question. Yes, adolescents, or maybe in this webinar or in my presentation, I call them as centennials. They are in the transition phase or on the transition process. And so what is the next step that we should approach them? In my opinion, the first step or the initial step is to approach them in their own way and to understanding what they really want and what they really need. And then as we know that they are the truly digital narratives for the centennials, so it is really important that we approach them not traditionally, but also, well, it's a both combination.
Hello, Bu Yuni, I think you are disconnected.
Not so much on the digital world that they are really natives on. So I think we should also pay attention on the characteristic of the centennials. So I think also it is really important to have awareness raising to the millennials, and we can do it in school, for example, through UKS. As we know, UKS has been established for a long time ago already, and I think it's a really a good platform if we also approach the UKS program in school that really already embedded at school. And also Bu Rahayu already also explained about the school program. So I think Burahayo already gives her opinion on the how approaching the teenagers. And also, it is really important that they have a platform to speak. Because as we know that it's kind of hard to find a centennials and millennials platform, especially or specifically on food and nutrition. So it is the time to create and to engage to them with a digital platform which is fun and also easy and practical. So that's kind of we approach them by considering their own thing, the centennials or the millennials thinking, and what they really want and expect. And also a practical example, maybe we, as I mentioned, we have a Millennials Voice platform. We say Millennials Voice Indonesia. We already have Aji as the president, also Anta here, the moderator, as the manager of the nutrition and health. So feel free to check out the Instagram or other social media platform and join us, because it's really open for centennials and millennials as well. So that's kind of a concrete example that I can give right now. And as a closing statement, I would emphasize that the explanation that I did in my presentation with the tables and explanation, it is more in a general wise. So it's not necessarily representing all of the generation or all the specific group that was in the table. So because as we know that individuals in all generations, silents, boomers, millennials, and centennials, they have their own characteristic, they have their own experience, they have their own value, and etc., etc. So, but it is important as well to understand each group in a general wise, so that we can approach them effectively. And as we know, and we also really have to understand that each of the generation are very diverse. So the silents, the boomers, millennials, and centennials, they are a very diverse group. Even in, for example, in silent group or in the X generation group, they are very diverse, right? So we can say like, oh, they are like this or they are like that. So and also we have to take a look that each group have diversity in terms of gender, disabilities or non-disabilities, cultures, and family background, and so much more to look at. So we cannot generalize, but we can have a lesson learned that we can pick at the tables that I was giving. So thank you so much for UPN, for IFPRI, and for UNHAS for this joint collaboration, also the Millennials Voice and SNP. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Bu Yuni. So next question for to Nanang Nasrullah, Pak Nanang, from Resti Kurnia, a lecturer from Universitas Alma-Ata Yogyakarta. Her question is about fish that are kept together with rice plants have greater nutritional value. How big the difference in nutritional value? Can you give some advice, Pak Nanang, about this? Thank you, and giving your closing statement.
Okay, thank you for interesting and good question. But unfortunately, I don't have enough data to explain this. But the benefits of cultivating rice fish farming are how to optimize land use and use of the natural resources. The main focus is still on rice. Fish is an additional. Other benefits are low risk of pest attack without pesticide, chemical fertilizer, or lower. This means that the rice produce is better because it has no pesticides, which means it is safer for consumption. So what other fertilizer comes from? Fertilizer, which is an organic fertilizer, comes from waste from fish that serve as a source of additional to grow plants. And the rice plant will provide a lot of oxygen to the water, which will provide benefits for fish. Maybe also improves the nutritional content of fish, of course. Of course, yeah, the feeding for fish should be given. Otherwise, the quality of the fish lower, include the nutrition content. So by producing fish and rice at all once, it means increase the nutrition intake to the farmer family, either the economic. Okay, that's my answer to the question. And for the closing remark is that I would like to appreciate, thank you for the opportunity for me in this webinar. Then by innovation, the world has overcome food ability, but what we need to these people more. So it is need more innovation for food utilization as the other presenter provide. So this will impact the individual in order to get healthy, active, and productive life of the people. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Pak Nanang Nasrullah. So the fifth questions will be delivered to Ibu Rahayu Indriasari. The question from Reni Sofiatin, lecturer 2 from Hub Polytechnic Mataram, NTB. The question is, what and how the role of parents in the feeding programs for school children, nutrition of school children. So what is the role of the parents to support the school feeding program? So please answer, Bu Rahayu.
Okay, thank you, moderator. So the first keyword for when we're talking about the role of parents, it's awareness and engagement. So the parents have to be aware that this program provides many beneficial good effects for their own children and other children in the same communities. So parents should be aware of this, and by having high awareness, they have to accept and support, of course, for the program. One way that parents can be engaged or involved is through the school committee, because school committee involve teachers and school authorities as well as parents. So parents can involved to provide ideas, innovatives, for example, in planning the menus, what kind of meals that could be provided for the children. And also other interventions that can relate it to food provision. So the parents also can involve in monitoring the provision of foods, whether it's already served based, imply the nutrition standards, and also the food safety, and how it is provided to the school children, whether the portion is enough or not, and also what kind of other health interventions that school provide for the children. So parents have a key roles actually to support the program. And also the second one, that to become this program sustainable and provide more beneficial effects, that what children get from school, what healthy foods, healthy snacks, these also have to be practiced at home. So parents should provide the children, even the whole family, with healthy meals, and this will improve family diets. So what provision that provided at school has to be in line with what foods provided at home. So I think that's my answers to the question. And for the close statement, I also give thanks a lot to the IFRI, SNV, UPNVG for this great collaboration. Hopefully we can expand this not only by conducting webinar, but maybe collaborative research or initiative programs. And the second one, related to the last question, that I want to emphasize the community engagement, because this is important key for the successfulness and stability, sustainability of any kind of program. So I think, like Mbak Yani said, that awareness should be rising for all family members, teachers, school members, and children and adolescents as well. And we have to provide a good collaboration for multi-sectoral. I think that's all from me, Anca.
Okay, thank you so much, Bu Rahayu. And I'm so sorry. Actually, we have plenty question coming from the form, but yeah, I'm sorry. We're running off the time. So I think I will end this Q&A session. But for further information, you could contact the speakers, maybe by email or social media that I have mentioned and show to you before. And ladies and gentlemen, we finally come to the end of this session. Before I close this session, I would like to take the conclusion with one sentence. Food and nutrition security is very important to know. Many ways to improve this food and nutrition security, like strengthening the policy, conducting an inclusive program, making innovation, and of course, we should learn from the past program like school and nutrition program. And I would like to thank you so much to all speakers for your informative and interesting presentation. To Nick, you have, I think, you coming for the late night in DC right now, but you still high spirit with us. Okay, and also thank you to Bu Mei, Bu Yuni, Pak Nanang Nasrullah, and Bu Rahayu. And of course to the participants for very active participation. You wrote many questions in the form, and hopefully this webinar will be the beneficial for everybody. So maybe please give you applause in front of your screen. Even we can hear, but we can give an applause for us. Okay, thank you very much, and I give back to the Master of Ceremony today.
Okay, thank you for all the speakers and moderator to lead us to the great discussions. Now we reach the end of the seminars, and I would like to express my gratitude to all of the speakers, the committee, and also the participants who have participated actively in the seminars. And I would like to remind you to get the presentation slide completely. Please follow the speakers on Instagram at It's Uni World and at Meita Tengkeng and at gizi.upnvj. And the certificate will be available about 2 weeks. And the requirements to get a certificate are fill the attendance list on the G form that committee shared to you, and follow social media on Instagram, gizi.upnvj, at millennialvoice_ID, and also on the Twitter at mvoice_ID, and also in the YouTube that the link have shared by the committee. And we have a good news for you. Please save the dates for tomorrow because we have Obras Gizi 7 that will discuss about lansia berseri. Lansia berseri dengan gizi optimal saat pandemi. Yes. Yeah, and also we have call for paper ICSD, discuss about the role of health industry in COVID-19 pandemic and 4.0 era that you can see on your screen. So don't forget save the important dates and prepare your paper to submit. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much for your attention. Always stay happy, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.